Okay, picture this. There's a silent, invisible biological war raging right under our noses. And honestly, we are losing. But today, in this explainer, we're not just looking at the doom and gloom. We're going to meet the microscopic, highly effective heroes that might literally save our lives.
Imagine you're out gardening and you get a tiny scratch from a thorn. Normally, what do? You wash it, slap a bandage on it, and totally forget about it. But what if within a few days, that tiny scratch turns red, swells up, and becomes deadly? Why? Because the bacteria inside that wound have evolved to survive our very best drugs. We've relied on antibiotics for nearly a century, right? They're the absolute bedrock of modern medicine. But we really have to ask, what happens to humanity when our strongest medicines just stop working? We are kind of creeping back toward an era where a minor scrape could literally be a death sentence. And the numbers here are just staggering. 700,000. That is the number of people who die globally every single year from antimicrobial resistance. That's 700,000 lives lost to common infections that we used to cure with a cheap, everyday pill. But here's the truly scary part. That number is accelerating fast. It's projected to hit 10 million deaths a year by 2050. To put that into perspective, that would surpass the number of people who currently die from cancer. So next time you think about reaching for a preventative antibiotic, this is exactly why we need to be incredibly careful. So how did we actually end up here? Well, we basically carpet-bombed bacteria with broad-spectrum antibiotics in human medicine and industrial farming. And when you do that, the weakest bacteria die off, sure, but the strongest, they survive and they multiply. This massive overuse has led to the rise of superbugs. Specifically, there's this notorious group of highly resistant pathogens scientists call the escape bacteria, and they mutate way faster than our drugs can keep up. To make matters worse, the development of new antibiotics has severely stalled. I mean, it takes billions of dollars and decades of research to find a new chemical, only for bacteria to become resistant to it almost immediately. The pipeline is just running dry. But here is the catch. Nature has already provided a biological solution. Enter the bacteriophage, or phage for short. Simply put, a bacteriophage is a virus that hunts and kills bacteria. That is its one and only purpose. And they aren't rare either. In fact, phages are the most abundant natural entities on planet Earth. There are billions upon billions of them everywhere, from the deepest, darkest trenches of the ocean right down to your own stomach. Wherever there are bacteria, there are phages right there actively hunting them. They've been fighting this invisible war for billions of years. This is a massive paradigm shift. Think of our traditional antibiotics like nuclear bombs inside our bodies. They're broad spectrum, meaning they cause severe collateral damage by wiping out everything in their path, including the healthy, necessary gut flora you actually need. Plus, bacteria build permanent resistance to them over time. Phage therapy, on the other hand, is an entirely new way of fighting back. Phages act like highly specific guided missiles. Because they only hunt one specific type of bacteria, they're completely microbiome friendly. They literally ignore your human cells entirely. And the absolute best part? Because they're living viruses, they dynamically evolve right alongside the bacteria to keep killing them. Now, let's look at how this seek and destroy mission actually works. The structure of a phage is wild. It looks almost exactly like a microscopic lunar lander, doesn't it? You've got this geometric head holding its DNA, a central tail sheath, and these little spindly legs. Through a process called the lytic cycle, it relentlessly hunts its prey. The phage physically hijacks the bacterial cell to destroy it completely from the inside out, basically turning the pathogen's own body against it. Let's break down this lytic cycle into 4 really simple steps. First, the phage attaches. Those tiny legs recognize specific receptors on the outside of the bacteria, fitting together perfectly like a lock and key. Second, it injects. It drives its tail tube right through the bacteria's heavy armor and pushes its own genetic material inside. Third, it replicates. The virus completely hacks the host's internal machinery, forcing the bacteria to stop its normal functions and instead build hundreds of brand new phages. And finally, step 4, burst. The bacterial cell literally explodes from the pressure, dying instantly and releasing hundreds of new phages to hunt down the rest of the infection. It's an incredibly efficient, self-amplifying cure. Now you might be thinking, what if the bacteria fight back? What if they just change their outer shells to block the phage from attaching? Well, the virus naturally mutates right back. It's an ancient biological arms race. The bacteria build a new shield, the phage builds a new weapon. The bacteria change their lock, the phage changes its key. This natural coevolution is the sheer genius of the system. Instead of relying on static chemicals that eventually become useless, we can use a living treatment that adapts in real time.
It allows us to beat the superbugs at their very own evolutionary game. So what does this actually look like in the real world? This isn't just science fiction. The applications are already here. In clinical medicine, for instance, a U.S. patient who had fallen into a deep coma with a deadly, untreatable superbug infection was miraculously cured. Doctors used an experimental, perfectly matched phage treatment, and this was after absolutely every single antibiotic had completely failed. In agriculture, farmers are actively spraying apple orchards with phages to protect crops from devastating bacterial blights, and it leaves zero toxic residue behind. And over in food safety, phages are actively replacing preventative antibiotics in livestock feed to wipe out things like salmonella long before it ever reaches your dinner plate. However, I need to be clear, this isn't a flawless silver bullet just yet. There are some honest limitations we absolutely have to talk about. First, that guided missile precision. It's kind of a double-edged sword. That extremely narrow host range means doctors have to perfectly match the exact phage to the exact bacteria causing your specific infection, and that takes precious time. Second, while phages do adapt, bacteria can still develop temporary resistance. Third, our own human immune system sometimes recognizes phages as foreign invaders and clears them out of our bloodstream before they can finish the job. And finally, there are massive regulatory hurdles. Our current medical laws and FDA approval processes are built for static, predictable chemicals, like a generic aspirin in a bottle, not personalized, living medicines that evolve in real time. But scientists are incredibly resourceful. Because bacteria mutate so incredibly fast, researchers have developed a brilliantly clever workaround to outsmart them: phage cocktails. So instead of sending in just one single type of phage to do the job, scientists mix multiple different phages together into one dose. Think of it like a coordinated multi-front strike. If the bacteria mutate to block the first phage, well, the second and third phages slip right through its defenses. The bacteria simply cannot mutate fast enough and in multiple different directions to survive that kind of overwhelming, simultaneous attack. Looking 5 to 10 years ahead, what doors does this technology actually open? Well, it turns out we don't have to throw away our old medicines entirely. Combining phages with traditional antibiotics could give us unprecedented enhanced results. See, some phages are incredibly good at targeting and breaking down biofilms, those slimy, thick protective shields that bacteria build around themselves to hide from our drugs. Once the phage breaks that shield open, a tiny dose of traditional antibiotics can rush right in and finish the job. In the agricultural sector, we could completely replace preventative antibiotics, which stops resistance right at the source. We are truly looking at the new frontier of customized, personalized healthcare. Ultimately, as superbugs grow stronger and our traditional chemical medicines continue to fail us, we face a pretty radical choice. Remember that invisible biological war we talked about at the beginning? Well, these microscopic predators have been fighting and destroying bacteria for billions of years. They know exactly how to win this war. We just need to harness them. So the final question we must ask ourselves is this: are we ready to embrace a virus as the ultimate guardian of human health?